Kano Jigoro's grandfather ran a sake-brewing business in Hyogo and also managed a shipping company that transported the sake to Edo, present-day Tokyo. He was also a supporter of Katsu Kaishu, who later became the last commander-in-chief of the Tokugawa shogunate's army and played a major role in the bloodless surrender of Edo Castle. This is the TV commercial of Kikumasamune. The families behind Kikumasamune and Hakutsuru, two of Japan's most famous and widely available sake brands, found even in convenience stores nationwide, are relatives of Kano. This is the TV commercial of Hakutsuru. As you can see, Kano Jigoro came from a distinguished family background. His nephew was none other than Yanagi Soetsu, one of Japan's most prominent art critics. From a young age, he excelled academically, studying English and German at what is now Tokyo University of Foreign Studies. In 1875, he entered what is now Japan's top university, the University of Tokyo, a difficult academic achievement. However, he was also bullied by larger children and grew up with a complex about his weak physical constitution. Wanting to overcome his frailness, Kano decided to enter a Jujutsu dojo. At that time, karate had not yet reached the Japanese mainland, so unarmed combat in Japan essentially meant a choice between sumo and jujutsu. Kano would later attain Menkyo Kaiden, full transmission indicating mastery to the level where there is nothing left to be taught, in the Tenshin Shin'yō-ryū and Kito-ryū schools of Jujutsu. While the Jujutsu world at the time believed that sheer repetition and quantity of training led to strength, Kano went beyond just the amount of practice. He analyzed and organized the principles of Jujutsu logically, focusing on improving the reproducibility of advanced techniques. As a result, he quickly acquired techniques that more than compensated for his small stature, and he rapidly rose to prominence in the Jujutsu community. As a side note, the Kito-ryū school that Kano studied is the same style practiced by the Japanese dojo students in Bruce Lee's movie Fist of Fury. Before the Meiji era, Jujutsu training mainly consisted of prearranged forms, called kata, where the practitioner would repeatedly rehearse fixed responses to specific movements, such as, if the opponent moves like this, respond like that. However, by the late Edo period, some schools began to rise to prominence by incorporating randori, sparring, into their training, free practice that simulated unpredictable real combat situations. At the time, Jujutsu also included striking techniques known as atami. Because of this, schools that practiced randori often saw frequent injuries such as bruises and dislocations. In response, Jujutsu practitioners developed sophisticated joint setting and healing techniques. This union of the killing techniques, sappo, of martial arts, and the healing techniques, kappo, led to the evolution of modern Japanese bone-setting therapy. In 1880, while still a student at the University of Tokyo, Kano made a surprise appearance at a demonstration by the Totsuka Yoshin-ryu, one of the most powerful traditional jujutsu schools of the time, and defeated a large and formidable opponent. Suddenly joining training at a dojo and requesting a match against its strongest member is called a dojo yaburi, dojo breaker. In the world of East Asian martial arts, there's a saying, never let a dojo breaker leave in one piece. Losing such a challenge could threaten the very credibility of a dojo, so it was customary to severely injure the challenger if necessary. The practice served not only as a way to advertise a school's strength, but also as a deterrent against rogue martial artists seeking fame through brash challenges. To jump into a public demonstration uninvited carried even more weight than a standard dojo challenge. It wasn't done in the spirit of camaraderie or goodwill. For the opponent, losing was absolutely unacceptable. It's easy to imagine that the challenger, Kano, was met with an intent to seriously injure. Likewise, the host school almost certainly sent out one of its most powerful representatives. That the small-framed Kano defeated a towering Jujutsuka from a prestigious dojo, the small overcoming the large, caused an immediate stir. Kano's name spread as that of a rare and formidable jujutsu master. However, it's worth noting that there are multiple versions of this story. The accounts from the Kodokan and those from the Yoshin-ryu differ significantly. Erwin von Baelz contributed to Das Kano Jujutsu, Judo, which was published in Germany, and in that contribution he wrote about a martial arts demonstration that took place at the University of Tokyo. According to that writing, the demonstration of Yoshin-ryu at the University of Tokyo was realized after Kano of Kodokan Judo and his disciples requested the university to invite Hikosuke Totsuka from Chiba. In the Grand Jujutsu match held in the University Auditorium, it is recorded that not a single one of the young men from Tokyo, including Kano himself, was able to compete with the disciples of Hikosuke Totsuka. Chiyomatsu Ishikawa, an acquaintance of Kano who studied Kodokan Judo and Tenshin Shin'yō-ryū, wrote the following about the demonstration by Hikosuke Totsuka at the University of Tokyo. Around the 15th year of Meiji, circa 1882, there was an event in the auditorium of a university in Hitotsubashi, where a swordsmanship teacher named Sakakibara and a teacher from the Totsuka school came to demonstrate martial arts. The Totsuka style used in this demonstration was quite rough, not caring about technique or form, simply fighting until the opponent surrendered. The old teacher was around 80 years old and brought with him a younger teacher and 4 disciples referred to as the 4 guardians of Totsukaha. At an appropriate moment, Professor Hamao of the university encouraged Kano to try a match, so Kano ended up facing the largest of the 4 heavenly kings from the Totsuka school. That large man was incredibly strong, and no matter how many techniques Kano attempted, none of them worked. Eventually, the man charged ferociously and dragged Kano around. Even Kano, as skilled as he was, apparently struggled considerably in that match. After the match, both the old and the young teacher praised Kano, saying, "It is admirable that someone devoted to academic study is able to fight such an extraordinarily strong man." Inoue Tetsujirō, who was present at the demonstration by Totsuka Hikosuke at the University of Tokyo, wrote the following in his book Kaikyuroku, Recollections. It was around the 12th or 13th year of Meiji, 1880-1881, when Dr. Kato suggested that Jujutsu be introduced at the university. This gradually progressed, and eventually tatami mats were laid out in the university auditorium, and a Jujutsu teacher was invited. This teacher was Hikosuke Totsuka, a former retainer of the Tokugawa shogunate. At that time, Totsuka was working as a prison guard Jujutsu instructor. He brought with him 7 or 8 disciples and first demonstrated the Jujutsu forms. Totsuka was around 60 years old at the time. After he demonstrated the forms, his disciples sparred with each other. They were all quite strong-looking disciples. The auditorium was filled with university faculty and students. Totsuka Hikosuke was known to have been the last person to win at the Kobusho during the Bakumatsu period, and it was said that at the time, no one in Jujutsu could rival him. While the disciples were sparring, one of the university students, after removing his kimono, entered the dojo and began sparring with the disciples. The disciples seemed quite strong, and the student fought fiercely, turning bright red from exertion. This student was Kano, and since Kano had been practicing Jujutsu until then, he was confident and decided to challenge them. The fact that Kano struggled greatly while sparring with Totsuka's disciples was a major source of inspiration for him, and was likely a turning point in his eventual success. According to records from the Kodokan, there are varying accounts of an event that took place around 1880, before the establishment of the Kodokan, when Jigoro Kano was still training in Jujutsu. One account suggests that it occurred around 1882, while another version states that Kano defeated the Totsukaha's 4 guardians using his supernatural floating waist technique. There are also biographical accounts which embellish the story, suggesting that during a demonstration at the university auditorium, Kano applied a choking technique on Enzo Kochi, almost defeating him before the match was stopped. It is not uncommon in the martial arts world of Asia to find various different stories surrounding a single event. And when compared to the stories of other schools, this particular episode from Kano's life is rather modest. 5 years later, in 1885, Kano's Kodokan Judo, led by him, faced the Totsuka Yoshin-ryu school in a 10-on-10 match. This story will be discussed later. It is no exaggeration to say that Kano Jigoro, the founder of Kodokan Judo, is one of the most important figures in modern Japanese martial arts. Nearly all Japanese martial arts have adopted a rank system, and nearly all Japanese unarmed martial arts require the use of uniforms, both of which were invented by Kano. By removing dangerous techniques from Jujutsu and minimizing the time lost due to long rest due to injury, it became possible to improve skills in a short period of time, and it became a subject studied in schools. Although Judo is an elite martial art, what is less known is that in the early days, students competed in inter-style matches against wrestlers and boxers from overseas, and that Kano himself competed in inter-style matches against Jujutsu practitioners. Japan B is a channel that randomly shares information about lesser-known aspects of Japanese culture, spanning across various genres.